I can teach. Let's get up forward to the WG.
Teach me how to solve. Teach me how to solve. Teach me how to solve. Teach me how to solve.
Everybody learning, everybody learning, everybody learning now. Teach me how to solve it.
Hello and welcome to the Kearney Math Show. Thank you all for tuning in today. On today's episode of the Kearney Math Show, we are going to be featuring mini lesson 3. However, this is entry number 7. So take a moment to write entry number 7 at the top of your paper. Okay, so our learning goal is that by the end of today, I want you guys to be able to take a multi-step equation and solve it and be able to explain to someone else how to do that, okay? So we've been talking about the way that an equation is built will help us with solving it, and we're going to use that today, okay? So there are some steps we're going to go through. So we're going to look right here at step number 1. First step is you want to locate the variable, okay? So you want to look and you want to determine where the variable is. Is there just one variable, or do we need to simplify and combine like terms first before we start solving it, okay? So I'm going to look at number 1, okay? So I'm going to locate the variable, and that variable there is x, which means there's just one variable, so I don't have to simplify anything. I can automatically start solving it, okay? Number 2, step 2, is you are going to determine how the equation was built. Okay, so you want to look and you want to determine what happened to x. So if we were to look at number 1, we would see that first x was multiplied by -12, and then we added 7. Okay, so we're going to use how it was built to solve it. So step 3 is we're going to use inverse operations to unbuild or deconstruct that equation, okay? We're going to unbuild it in the opposite order from which it was built, okay? So if we look at this, what was the last thing that happened to x? We added 7. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to undo that and use inverse operations to undo that adding 7. So I'm going to subtract 7, okay? And remember, solving an equation is kind of like balancing something. So you need to, whatever you do to one side, you do to the other. And how I remember that, as I say, listen to your teachers, listen to your mother. What you do on one side, you do to the other. Okay? So if I subtract 7 from one side, I need to subtract 7 from the other side. Okay? So 7 minus 7 cancels out, and I'm left with -12x equals 31 minus 7 is 24, okay? So now I'm going to isolate the variable. I'm trying to get the variable by itself, okay? So I got to figure out, what does x equal? So right now, what is happening with x? It's being multiplied by -12. So to use inverse operations, to undo that, instead of multiplying by -12, I can divide by -12, okay? And then positive 24 divided by -12 is -2. So right now, that's what I think my x value is. But I can't be sure until I check it. Remember, you always want to check to make sure that this equation works, that one side equals the other. So to check, I'm going to come over to the side, and that's my 4th step. Okay, you're going to check your solution using substitution. Check your solution using substitution. So where there's an x, I'm going to put -2. So I have -12 times -2 plus 7, and we're wondering, does that equal 31? Okay, so we're going to simplify both sides and see if one side equals the other. So -12 times -2 is positive 24. And 24 plus 7 is 31. And 31 does, in fact, equal 31. So it checks. So that is correct. Okay? So let's go through our steps. Step 1 is we located the variable to see if we needed to simplify anything. There was more than one variable. We might have needed to combine like terms. Step 2, we want to determine how that equation was built. Step 3 is we're going to use inverse operations to unbuild the equation. And step 4, we always check our solution using order of operations. Okay? So I'm going to do one more with you. I want you to come down to number 5. We're going to go through our steps really quickly. Okay? So first, locate the variable. How many variables do we have? We just have one. We don't need to simplify anything. We're good to go. So we can automatically start solving it. So what happened to m first? You multiplied by 6. And then what happened? We subtracted 12. And then what happened? We multiplied by 1/3. Okay, so when we're solving this, we are going to unbuild it. So we're going to solve it in the reverse order. So what was the last thing that happened? You multiplied by 1/3. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to divide by 1/3. Okay, whatever I do to one side, remember, listen to your teachers, listen to your mother. What you do on one side, you do to the other. So we divide by 1/3. And 1/3 divided by 1/3 is just 1. So that cancels out. And I'm left with 6m minus 12 equals, and now 6 divided by 1/3, keep, change, flip. 12 over 1, which is 12. Okay? So now, what's the last thing that happened to m here? We subtracted 12. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use inverse operations to undo that. So I'm going to add 12, add 12. So we're left with 6m equals 24. And then what's happening with 6 and m? They're being multiplied. So I'm going to do the inverse operation and divide by 6. So m equals 4. Now, that's what we think, but remember, you can never be too sure. We always want to go back and check to see if that's correct. So we're going to go back and plug that m back in to make sure it works. Okay? So we have 1/3 times 6 times 4 minus 12 equals, and we're wondering, does it equal 6? Okay? So we can use order of operations to simplify. So parentheses, so we do 6 times 4 is 24. And then we have 24 minus 12 is 12. And so Miss Kearney made a mistake. Y'all see that? So clearly I'm getting where I did not get the correct answer. So 1/3 times 12 is 4. And does 4 equal 6? No. So I know I did something wrong. So I'm going to come back over to my equation and figure out what I did wrong. So my brain is just wrong. I got to go back. Now I'm going to figure out. So let's go back up to the top. We divided both sides by 1/3. And when I divided 6 by 1/3, I can already see my mistake. Keep, change, flip, and 6 times 3 is 18. Silly Miss Kearney. So that should be 6m minus 12 equals 18. And now we can just quickly solve. Minus 12, so we're going to do opposite, add 12, add 12. So 6m equals 18 plus 12. And what do you get there? 18 plus 12 is 30. Okay, and divide both sides by 6. So we get m equals 5. We think, let's see if Miss Kearney got this one correct. Okay, that's why it's so important. We always want to go back and check. Okay, so let's check. 1/3 times 6 times m, so we put that 5 in there. And we want to know, does that equal 6? So order of operations, 6 times 5 is 1/3. 6 times 5 is 30. 30 minus 12 is 18. 1/3 times 18 is 6. And does 6 equal 6? Heck yes, it does. So my 5 worked out. Okay? So right there is living proof. Miss Kearney just made a mistake, but I found my mistake by going back and substituting in. So that's why it's so important to always check that equation by substitution. Okay, so let's go through our steps. Step 1, locate the variable. Step 2, determine how the equation was built. Step 3, use inverse operations to unbuild the equation. We're taking it apart. We're deconstructing it. And then step 4, we're going to take our solution and always check it by using substitution. Okay, so at this time, guys, you can take those steps and you can try to start solving the practice problems. and I will take any questions you have, okay? So good luck, guys. Make me proud. Peace out, Rainbow Trout. Love you, mean it.